can't understand the trade war unless you get your head around the political situation here in the U.S. Now, this is a jam for me. I hate talking politics. I'd much prefer to focus on individual companies. You know that. Unfortunately, the trade war matters to the markets, so sigh. Stuff's impossible to ignore. When it comes to trade and a lot of other issues, the key political divide in this country is not between the Republicans and the Democrats. Wrong read. There's a whole other debate happening in both parties right now, the populists versus the technocrats. On the Democratic side, this fight is happening out in the open. You've got Senator Warren representing the populist wing of the party and Joe Biden standing for the more technocratic wing. Biden thinks the system works fine for the most part. Maybe it needs a few tweaks, but that's it. Warren's out here picking fights with billionaires because she thinks big business has gotten too powerful and some people just too rich versus the tens of millions of others in the country. From the Chinese perspective, they must be praying for a Biden victory because he wants to end the trade war. On the Republican side, we're seeing the same populist versus technocrats debate, only it's happening inside the White House. The president has advisors from both sides, which can make things really confusing. The other day, President Trump gave a speech at the Economic Club of New York, Technocrat Central, and we saw a flash of electric elite criticism that highlighted that fault line in his own administration. He talked about how China's been taking advantage of us with its predatory trade policies for ages. That's just flat. That's flat true, okay? Empirical true, nothing fake. But because the president knows how to read a room and that audience doesn't love the trade war, he started praising the Chinese for playing us brilliantly, as he did when he first told the Chinese that the order is finally changing. Instead, Trump said the real villains here are his predecessors, both Republicans and Democrats, who effectively sold out American workers in exchange for China partially opening its markets to big business. I emphasize partially. And that's why these trade talks are so hard to gain. We don't know if the president will side with the free trading technocrats in his own administration, namely Steve Mnuchin and Larry Kudlow, the Treasury Secretary and President's Chief Economic Advisor, or if he'll side with the populists, led by trade advisor Peter Navarro, with Robert Lighthizer, the chief negotiator, seemingly a fellow traveler. We don't know because the president's using the doves as carrots and the hawks as sticks. Increasingly, I think he sides with the hawks because the Chinese keep misreading the situation. They're confusing resolve and hard bargaining, their style, with ideological cold warfare, the style of the populists. By the way, in both parties. Hey, for a moment, let's bag the ornithology for a second. Mnuchin and Kudlow represent the old-style technocrats. They believe in free trade, and they believe in the people who run our institutions, people like Henry Kissinger or Stephen Schwarzman or Goldman Sachs alum Henry Paulson, who also happens to be the former Treasury Secretary, and same with John Thornton. See, these men stand for an open China. They want free and fair trade. Happy warriors. The populists don't buy that line of thinking for 1 second. They think the technocrats are only doing what's good for big business, for the wealthy, the elites, not necessarily for what's good for America. Let's take it one step further. The populists in the Trump administration, they don't want more trade. They want China to make 7 major concessions. Navarro calls them the 7 deadly sins. No more stealing of our intellectual property. No more forced technology transfers. Stop dumping into our darn markets, putting our companies out of business. No more subsidized state-owned enterprises. No more currency manipulation. No more computer hacking. And perhaps in some ways the most important, no more illegal fentanyl exports that are killing our people. What's so extraordinary is that if you just throw in punishment for global warming, I believe that the populist advisors in the White House have more in common with Elizabeth Warren's rhetoric than with the free traders in their own administration. I think she might end up being even tougher on China than Trump. So who wins in this White House, the free trade contingent or the populists? Unless China stops trying to negotiate a good price and instead just starts buying things like grains and planes, you name it, then I'm betting the populists win. The president, I think, maybe gets fed up. He's going to raise tariffs for everything to 30% in a month's time. The Chinese keep making the same mistake. They think this is about the balance of trade. Oh, maybe it was at one point, when in reality it's about a whole lot more than that now. How can they get a deal? I think they need to start buying American goods like tomorrow to show Trump that the free traders have a point and their strategy can still work. He needs to show the free traders that they can have hope. Otherwise, the hardliners win. The trade war keeps dragging on, and depending on who wins and what happens in the election, what plays out, it could go on for years. If I were the Chinese, I'd rather deal with Trump now than Trump or Warren later. Sure, we hear the Chinese are always playing the long game. I got some bad news for them. Judging from the landscape, they're playing the long game. The long game. Paul in Illinois. Paul.
Hi, Jim. I bought into CrowdStrike in the mid-'70s and have since averaged it down, but I'm still in the red.
Yeah.
I know they were mentioned yesterday during the hearing that gave the stock a 10% bump. It's young, it's expensive, it's in the political crosshairs, and I know the lockup is ending up soon. Should I buy some more?
Well, look, the problem with CrowdStrike is this has become a very crowded area. CyberArk and Palo Alto are the two that are still working. And when I say working, meaning that they're not overwhelmed by sellers everywhere. So I cannot endure. CrowdStrike's a really good company, but it doesn't matter. Right now, there are too many CrowdStrikes out there. Right, China needs to start buying American goods to appease the Trump administration's free trade thinkers, who in turn will urge Trump that an open China is the way. If China doesn't, then I think the populists may come out on top, and that could mean tariff increases in the near future, because the Chinese are playing the wrong game. Much more Mad Money here. I'm taking a look inside the biotech sector. What can BioMarin tell us right now about the future for these stocks and the government? I'm talking to the CEO after the company's R&D day. And the average cost of a successful fertility treatment can be about $70,000. Tell in mind one player working to help expand and improve access to fertility treatments. And all you call is rapid fire in today's edition of the Lightning Round. So stay with Cramer.
Don't miss a second of Mad Money. Follow @Jim Cramer on Twitter. Have a question? Tweet Cramer. #MadTweets. Send Jim an email to madmoney@cnbc.com or give us a call at 1-800-743-CNBC. Miss something? Head to madmoney.cnbc.com.